Mm-hmm. Well, I'm back. And we'll see what happens in this live streaming adventure. I need to change the name of the earlier live stream to something that speaks to the amazing collection of wonderful life lessons one can glean. But anyway, yeah, I'm back on because I took my little break, got my lunch, yada, 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 and we're rocking and rolling. So, what do we got? Well, actually, if we switch over here, I had this close-up of this guy that I'm cutting. I'm going to cut that. So I'm going to take this, get rid of that, and so he says, I got to look at the script, pull up the script. Just getting our bearings here. He only just started today. Just started? Waiting tables, I mean. Okay, so he says, "Aye, sirs, he's been cleaning toilets before today." Okay, that worked out well. That came out nice. So I'm putting this here because I don't want to, at the editing stage, forget the exact order of where the dialogue falls and stuff, because it can get confusing, since with dialogue the shots are kind of similar, and once you lose your place it can be a pain in the rump to find your place again. So there's that. And so for those who were here earlier, yes, I'm back already, right? I didn't post it on Discord because, well, I just didn't, man. Let's keep rocking. So for this shot, I should mention that per what I was talking about earlier with Vertex Paint and all that, I created a bunch of materials for the Tavern Keeper. So a couple things to note. First of all, if you're going to do like I'm doing, and you're going to transition back away from using Vertex Paint and palettes for your ink or for your coloring, which I am, then the way I did it was like this. I'll put this in because I'm going to have to do it eventually for Tia and everybody else. Think about the materials in the grease pencil as being placeholders. They're just slots. So if I hit plus, Blender's going to create a bunch of extra slots. Okay? So what I did, let's just see. Actually, let's look at the storyboard and see who's the character we're going to have to deal with next. Okay, Vespar, I believe, is already in here. Yes, Vespar's already there. So it's probably going to be, well, Monkey. There's Monkey. Okay, Monkey's coming up soon. So let's do Monkey. All right, so what we do is this. You got a bunch of slots, bunch of empty slots. What I'm going to do is here's the process. Number one, add a new material to this, but kill both the stroke and the fill so that there's no icon. So this is what I'm doing, as I'm putting in 3 equal signs and then the name of the, well, okay, I guess I just put in 4. 3 equal signs and then the name of the character. Then directly below it, what I'm doing is grab a material that's kind of like what you need, which is just a fill material here. And immediately click this. If you don't click this to make this into a new material, which will cause it to be called bands.001, then what will happen is you're going to have a material that's actually essentially a placeholder proxy for the material you copied it from up higher, or down lower as the case may be. And if you change this color, which you're about to do, it will change the other color that you based it on, which is very bad. You don't want that. So you create a slot, you find the similar type of material, and immediately click this. Go to the slot, find the similar material, click this. That makes each of these unique. Then all you have to do is find something else, elsewhere in the show that has Monkey's colors. Use the eyedropper to change each of these colors to what they need to be, and now all of a sudden you've got what you need to be able to move forward. Get it? Okay, so there was one thing in this shot that was problematic, and it must have occurred in Krita, so let me take a look at this. Okay, that's strange. There is no anomaly. And yet, when I looked at it in Vegas, look at that. There's a... I have absolutely no idea where that's coming from. No idea. So what I'm going to do, for lack of a better idea, is just re-render this and see if that makes a difference. Unfortunately, Krita doesn't show you what it's rendering as it does it, which is probably a good thing because, you know, it's like rendering from the command line. It tends to be faster. But now let's look at what's going on over here and see if it fixed it. Yep. So something went wrong when Krita rendered. That doesn't happen very often, but a quick re-render solved the problem. So good, 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 good. All right, so back to work then. Let's go to Blender and see what happens next. Okay, so we get a reaction shot from Vespar. Okay, fine. So I'm going to go here, and all of the... I mean, you could do it two ways. If you hit the I key and insert a keyframe here, it's going to insert it on all channels, and you're basically good to go. So the problem with that being, actually, I inserted a keyframe on my sketch layer, which is precisely what I don't want to do. So look at this for a minute. Okay, this is kind of interesting because it looks like... okay, stop everything. I need to look at the sketch layer, turn it on. There's something here that's missing. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back one frame to the end of this sequence here and hit the tilde key, which will isolate my layers. And any layer that I just was working on that has a keyframe anywhere, I want to insert a blank keyframe. You can do it sort of globally, but it's, you know, you're going to put a keyframe somewhere that you didn't actually want one, and it winds up being no faster to, you know, turns out it's better to just go to the layers that got something on them and get rid of it. Okay, so now we're here, and what's going to happen is we're just dealing with a reaction shot from both Tobias and Vespar. Okay, so that's going to be short, so Control End, and then back here to the beginning of it, Control Home, and now that's our playback range. Okay, so the only problem that remains, therefore, is that this drawing belongs downstream. So what I'm going to do is hit the square bracket, which selects everything that's downstream. But this is important. If I move these keyframes in this sort of like isolate mode that only shows one layer at a time, then I'm only going to move that layer, which is very bad. We don't want to do that. So we've got everything selected, but if you want to actually move the stuff, you have to have, you can't have an isolated layer. Okay, so why are we doing that? Because we just want to get everything out of the way. Okay, so that gets us back to here, and what we see is in the sketch layer, there's still one frame that needs to be moved downstream to here. Probably actually more like to here, because that's the shot we're going to be working on next. Okay, so there we go. All right, so let's look at the script. Obviously, we've got a... This is really quick because he says he's been doing toilets. That probably the sensible path here would be, is there a really quick shot of Tobias that we can just throw in? It would be this one, absolutely, right there. That's beautiful. That's perfect. That's perfect. That's beyond perfect. That's exactly what we want. Okay, so let's go back here. And everything after that initial just blink reaction, stop. And then we'll put Vespar in there. Now, do we really need to do a shot of Vespar? Maybe not. Let's just see if there's... I don't know. I don't like any of that. Let's go ahead and do the shot. Okay, so back to here. And what we'll do is we'll make this a a 3-punch. Let's turn that off. And so now what we're going to do is go to the lines layer. Obviously, we've only got one keyframe, right? So let's try to think ahead. Hit the D key. And now what I need to do is actually go into edit mode, grab this stuff, hit L for select linked, and delete it. We don't want his eyes in there. Truthfully, we really don't want this. Whoops. We really don't want this in there either. So I'm going to hit the L key, select linked, selects everything that's attached to that, and we're going to move this to the eyebrows layer. That gives me the ability pretty easily to go ahead and animate his eyebrows and help punch up the expression. Obviously, there's no mouth already. So that means we can go to the pupils layer, hit the D key, get back to the correct material, obviously, charcoal ink. And now what I'm going to do is jump to the eyebrows layer, stop, important, got to be back in isolate layer mode or you're going to introduce problems. Okay, and it's normally I should color these first, but since it's the first frame, you know, we can color it after we move them into their initial position. But what we're going to do here is eyebrows. Okay, so let's go to Vespar. There's Vespar. Vespar's hair is that color. So what we're going to do is in the eyebrows layer, what I've been doing lately, seems to work pretty well, is let's just go ahead and go in draw strokes on back mode so that we can just manually color this in. And we know that the color is going to appear behind, which it didn't. So what just happened? Honestly, I'd have to go back and watch the video. How is it that I made sure this was on? I thought I clicked it again. I must have not clicked it back on after I showed that. That must be what happened. So this is a little tedious because, you know, you have to draw it. I could use the fill tool, but whoop-de-doo. If it fills perfectly, it would be faster. If it doesn't fill perfectly, it'll be slower. And with something that not only narrow, but also with these tight corners, forget it. You might as well draw the color. Okay. So now the eyebrows are good, and we will be able to expand on them a bit. Okay. If we're going to do sculpting, just thinking out loud here, if we're going to do sculpting, number one, it would make more sense to have the color in place first, and number two, it would make sense to make darn sure that what I have in this drawing is really what I want. And I can see that there's a bit of a flaw here. Let's go here and flip it. That's better. Cool. Okay. So I think we're ready for paint. So let's go to the fills layer. I do have this secondary fills. Basically that paid off in the last shot I did because you've got one character who is filled one time, Melchizedek, and nothing changes through the whole shot. Here. Nothing changed through the whole shot. Hence, I put Mel on one layer of fills, and then I use the secondary fills for this guy. So I got one character who's moving a lot and another character that's not moving at all. So it makes more sense to separate those out. Otherwise, you're baking all the fills for Melchizedek would be baked into every one of these individual frames. And if it turns out later there's something wrong with Melchizedek that has to be fixed, I have to fix it exactly the same way on every single frame. Broadly speaking, that's kind of stupid. Not the best way to work. So, all right, Vespar hair. Let's see if we can get away with this. Will we have good clean fills? Okay, usually when I see something like that, it's probably because there are holdover keyframes from the shadows that you can't really see on the screen right now that are blocking the fill operation. That's normally what would cause something like that. So let's see if that did the trick. Okay, that did do the trick, but of course it's the wrong place I was filling. So there we go. Okay, so I'm going ahead and getting the colors filled in because I'm assuming most of what's going to happen downstream here from an animation standpoint is mostly just taking the whole head and kind of moving it all as a unit, and all of the animation is taking place inside of it. Okay, so now we've got this leather material that they're using. I'm going to borrow that from Tobias, and frankly I have no recollection at all of what color. I need to find, there we go, wider shot. Okay, it's a little lighter, sort of yellowish kind of color. So let's add that right now. So we're going to add this. Unfortunately, it puts it at the end of the list. I wish that it would insert it directly under whatever material is currently selected. That would make it a little easier, but that's okay. So we'll go here and do the same thing we did before. We'll just create a material that's a copy of another material that's the same type, make it unique, and we'll call this V garment. Okay, so why V? Well, if it's under Vespar, I know it's Vespar, like Vespar skin, Vespar hair. The thing I noticed was that when you make a duplicate of a material, the way that Blender retains its link to the material that it's based on, the name matters. Having a unique name matters. I'm not even going to go into the signal chain of why that's true, but let's just color that, and then what we'll do is just kind of find a material, a color here that's kind of sort of similar to what we had before. There, that looks pretty good actually. Cool. So the whites of his eyes, I tend to just have one whites of eyes material, and so they're up. Mistake. You don't want to be in draw behind mode when you're manually painting over and fixing stuff. Otherwise the stroke gets drawn, but it gets drawn behind the skin, which is precisely what you don't want. Okay, groovy. Okay, again, if we're going to sculpt, which is kind of looking likely, then it would probably be prudent to go ahead and put the shadows into and let them get, what's the word? Manipulated, animated, however you want to say it. Okay, stop everything. What am I missing? I'm missing something. I'm in the shadows layer. And it's masked to the fills. And just to be clear, oops, this is materials, not layers. Okay, let's just double check this. Fills, up, there's the problem. Yep, there's the problem. Whites of the eyes, I'm going to look really closely at this and see something. Yep, I do believe that's disappearing. Okay, so what are we dealing with here? Here's what's going on. I made a mistake. I want to go to the secondary fills layer. Arguably you could isolate it, but the important thing here is, how do you solve this? So what we have is we have all of our color in the wrong layer. I do this a million times a day, believe me, it's a common mistake. Here's how we're going to fix it. Watch closely. We're going to grab the charcoal ink material and make it invisible so we can't see it, so that all that's on the screen is the colors. Just to be safe and do this for sure correctly, I'm going to also turn off the eyebrows. Okay? Alright. Then what I do is go into edit mode, select everything, and hit the M key to move it to the layer that it's supposed to be in. And as you can see, that did introduce a problem. That's okay. I'm going to take the secondary fills layer here, keyframe, and just delete that keyframe, get it out of there, and go into draw mode to see what we have. Okay, so now let's turn the lines back on and the eyebrows. Let's turn the eyebrows on and the lines layer. I'm sorry, not the lines layer, my mistake. It's the charcoal ink material. Okay, so now everything's back in place. And what we want to do, this, I'll tell you right now, I know why that happened. At least I'm pretty sure. That probably occurred because of the holdover from a shadow layer that I just didn't realize was there. Don't quote me on that. Okay, Vespar skin. The main issue here being that we've lost the, oh, that's interesting. Okay, let's go to the fills layer. So right now I'm backpedaling and solving problems that I introduced myself, so hence it's a bit of a slow process. Okay, so let's go through and see if we can just fix this manually. If you're going to have to do a bunch of manual fixing, you know, it's preferable if you can do it on the very first frame. So everything that goes downstream is going to be pretty easy to work with. So, sorry for making the mistake, but as usual, everything is an ongoing adventure. And while we're here and thinking about it, did you notice Vespar skin? I'm going to go ahead and do this. It's not going to affect the eyebrows because the eyebrows, the lines and color are in a different layer. However, doing that means if I move the eyebrows, you're not going to have a big hole that appears in his skin because of the fact that the eyebrow was there when I filled it. So crown, I'm just going to keep doing this manually, meaning not using the fill tool, just use the marker, pencil, brush, whatever you want to call it. Okay, and if this is in behind mode again, we should be able to do a lasso. It didn't work. That means, that's weird actually, that means that the black is actually probably some shadow material that got in there. And if somebody went back and reviewed the video, they'd go, well, yeah, Dave, this is why that happened. It's pretty obvious. You know, I missed it. Whatever it is, I missed it. Okay, so what do we do now? Well, let's go deal with shadows. So if we turn this on, that doesn't seem to be doing much of anything here. So we'll go to the shadows layer, hit the tilde key, so we are in fact isolating it. We want the shadow filled material. Now we're back to where we were when we basically started. Shadow filled material, just getting back to Vespar in case we need to. And we are in the correct mode. This should work. And it does. Cool. So, sorry about that little diversion into mistake land, but whoop-de-freaking-do. Stuff happens, right? Okay, in Vespar's case, do we want to put a shadow here? I think not. I think it takes away from the characterization. Alright, so now the question becomes, whoa, what's this guy gonna do? No. Before we go there, let's finish these shadows. This seems incomplete to me. Obviously that's under what the camera can see, so. But yeah, a little bit there probably makes sense. Honestly, if you really want to be meticulous, badoink. Okay. That's it. So how do we play this? We can do the mouth separately if he's going to say anything, which he isn't, by the way. Let me think about this. I'll tell you what, let's do it this way. Let's go to the mouth layer. Just go back to our charcoal ink. put in a mouth. And then what we're trying to do here now is figure out how we want to do the characterization and make sure that this particular little brief snippet of show has, oh, I don't know, as much production value as we can manage. This would happen quite quickly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo the isolation of the frames. And I'm going to go forward. By the way, if you know this is a good frame and you want to sculpt it, it's never a horrible idea to go a frame forward to do your sculpting, so that if it winds up looking stupid or whatever, you can just delete that keyframe and you haven't lost the prior work. Kind of an important thing to, you know, maybe think about. Okay. So I say there would be a little bit of a that. Okay, let's just see if that feels good. Okay, well, if that happened, wouldn't there be a little bit of a shift in his body weight? Of course there would. Okay, so that's cool. All right, so at the point where he does that, we can debate whether one tween would be useful. It could be. We could, if we're going to do, well, it looks like there's only one tween in between anyway. So let's give it a shot and see if we like it. Lines, mouth, pupils, blinks. We're not using the blinks layer yet. Eyebrows, shadows. Okay, I'm an idiot. Yet again, as you guys know, I never, ever, ever, ever do anything right the first time. Ever. And I don't get too yanked about it because it's something I'm used to. But I forgot a little detail. I'm basically looking here and not looking here. And in fact, not noticing that, hey, by the way, Dave, did you forget that you cannot do keyframe interpolation in sculpt mode? Go into drawing mode and start all over. Control-Shift-E, Control-Shift-E, Control-Shift-E. Yeah, so what I was doing is I was looking at this list, and I know the keyframes are being generated. I never looked at this to see that it was actually happening, which is pretty stupid, but there it is. Okay. Let's see how that feels. Okay, this all has to be pretty quick. So I'm going to say once we get here, let's go to the blinks layer, boom. Go to the Vespar, skin, layer, and I would say we definitely want a keyframe here. And we'll just do it in the simplest way possible. Okay. And now what we're going to do is essentially we want to get back to this, and we want to get back to it kind of quickly. We'll see if this plays, but the idea is that he's kind of sinking, but then he's jolted back. Okay, we'll go with that for the moment. We can always change the timing. Let's go to the eyebrows layer and think about if this could be better. I'm going to say it probably could. What we're going for here is consternation. Now we go to the pupils layer. Obviously they're a little out of sync there. Okay, let's see how it plays. That's pretty fast, but honestly that's really all we need. Because remember, we've got one reaction shot from Tobias and we're just going to add this to it. So, okay, so we're ready to render, go over to to Krita, so let's delete all of these out of the RAM drive. Gone forever. Control F12 in Blender. So we render this out. Jump over to Krita. File. Open. I guess what we want to open is actually whatever was the last close-up shot we had of Vespar. So that would be this. And that is 03, or it'd be 3-93 C. So C, is that the last one? Excuse me, I'm burping in everybody's ear. That's not cool. Oh, right there. There's there's a later one. Oh, that is C. I guess I reused it. Okay, there it is. That's what we got to do. All right, so we go to C. File, open recent. Come on, come on. There's got to be one of... Nope, there isn't. Curse you, Red Baron. All right, so we're going back to 93C. Open it up. Delete everything about Vespar from that shot. Import the animation frames. Let's do it. We go to the RAM drive where all of our frames are. Obviously, there's not very many. Open them up. Suck them in. Of course, they're in the wrong place. And also, of course, Krita will not pin it to the timeline, which is, of course, silly. So we're going to correct that right now. And now the tint thing, I'm going to say we just want to be a little gentler with that. And the overall lighting thing, it's basically in the zone. I like it. Boom. There you go. See how a little bit of sculpting of the entire expression and a little bit of blinking and a little bit of eyebrows makes a hell of a difference in a low-budget animated cartoon. Okay, so Control R, this is C, which is, of course, ridiculous. In fact, what we need to do is go File, Save As. And the last shot we did was K, so this would be L. 03-93-L. 0393-L. Boom. Render that. 0393-L. Hey Zuko. Zuko's chattering in the background. Alright, render that. We'll pop it into the show. We'll go ahead and switch screens because we want to take a look and see how the overall flow is feeling. Tobias, here's Vespar. 0393L. Boom. 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 8 frames per second. Boom. Snap that baby. That's not L, that's K. Wait a minute. JKL. Where is it? Okay, that's weird. That is weird. That's like, okay. How long did it take today to bump into something that's basically never happened before? What I'm seeing right here is a very strange thing. It should have been inserted right there. Okay, makes me wonder, do I have some kind of wrong... Was it 9.2? Am I looking at too small of a screen? Which I am surely. Okay. Stop everything. Stop everything. Stop everything. This is definitely a 3. I'm going to hit the render settings and pull this up on the others because I want to tell you guys, I can't see this. I mean, I see it, but it's a little blurry. 0393L render. Ah, there it is. 0393, I've got CL in there instead of L period, which is a little odd because it still should be in the correct location. Okay, so it is unfortunate, but sometimes we just have to jump through these hoops. So I'm going to just hit F5 to refresh my image viewer, and it should not surprise anyone that there's never a shot that occurs in this show. You know, the amazing thing about it is for all the mistakes I make, I'm probably at the end of the day faster than most people. So these are all named wrong. That's the main issue there. Doesn't explain what the heck just occurred in Vegas, but let's re-render just for completeness and keeping everything clean. Okay, so now we have the correctly named images. All right, go back to Vegas. Ignore all missing files and leave them offline. I'm going to go ahead and purge the media pool. All right, I have no idea what went wrong, but there it is. We're just going to deal with it. Open the sequence. Again, 8 frames per second. And what should appear is this. That should be right there. Properties. Disable the resampling. Okay, now we can look at what we've got. Blah, 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 blah. See? He's been cleaning toilets before today. Okay, now that's interesting. This went by too fast, so I'm going to stretch this. I'm going to time stretch it because you can do that in an animated cartoon. Okay, so now my question is, can I let this go? Let me see how long I can let this go. Okay, I can let it go to there and probably speed it. Oh, come on now. So what I said earlier today, whatever I'm doing, I have to continually remind myself to do it 20% more deliberately and meticulously and slowly than I naturally want to. That works. Other than, I don't know, I mean, I'm not totally thrilled with Vespar's expression there. I think I want to go back to Blender, make a couple changes, re-render it, which means it's got to be re-imported into Krita, but that's okay. Okay, I want a more inquisitive attitude in his eyebrows, basically, is what I'm... I'll give myself 2 frames in which to do it. And let's take a little look at his mouth. And just for the heck of it, I'm going to go ahead and do some manipulations to make things what might be more interesting. So first of all, let's make sure that feels good. Sorry guys, my bad. Wrong. I do it every time. Okay, that's all right. I'm just making little adjustments. Okay, this I don't like. Let's go to the eyebrows. This needs to happen there. This all needs to be 1 frame quicker. Okay, now the thing that's missing, that's glaringly absent, would be I'm going to go into the blinks layer. We've already got Vespar skin selected as a material. And I would say when we get here, hit the D key. And I'm even going to, even though it's in the blinks layer, I'm going to actually put in a line here. And geez, for crying out loud, whites of eyes. Okay, should I? I'm going to go ahead and just put it in that layer just because it's quick to do so. Okay, that made me chuckle, so that's a good thing. All right, so let's hit Control F12. We'll come back to this. We've got to re-import this whole layer. Fortunately, I didn't do any manipulation of that layer that I have to recreate now. So let's just grab this to here, open it up, and then we need to just smack this back down to here, like that. Cool. Render that. pop that into the show, which is already done. Obviously, I'm just updating the images. And let's just feel the timing here. I like it. I like it. I like it muy mucho. Okay, cool. So we're rocking. We're still rocking forward. Okay, so let's go back to Blender. And what happens next, one wonders. Okay, so as I often do, I'm going to get to the end of this sequence. I'm going to hit tilde. And the key thing here is I'm going to lock the sketch layer. Insert a keyframe on all channels. So every channel has a keyframe except the sketch layer. And there we go. Okay. So now this is an interesting question. The tavern keeper turns to Mel. Hey, you did wash your hands, right? In the script, he says he's been cleaning toilets before today. But he washed his hands, of course. Actually, that works. Yes. Okay. I need to switch screens so you guys can see this. This is a great example of what I was talking about, trying to keep things in sync. What I need to do here, he says he's been cleaning toilets before today. Or before today. Right there. Okay, so sorry, I got the timing wrong. He's been cleaning toilets before today. But he washed his hands. That worked. Okay, so I need to insert here. But he washed his hands. That really worked. Okay, so now it makes sense to switch here to this shot, and he's already got his head turned, so we don't have to show his head turning. You did wash your hands, right? Okay, cool. We're back on track. Okay, so how long does it take to say that? You did wash your hands, right? Let's go to 1645. We'll go Control N, Control. Hello, hit the wrong hotkey again. 1645, Control N. 1620, Control Home. Okay, cool. Now we can move forward with ink and paint. Is this making sense, people? Does it make sense what we're doing here, or is it all very confusing? Oh my god. Like nobody's even watching right now. Isn't that weird? I feel like a few people watching. Then I disappear for half an hour. And yeah. Okay. I get it. People don't find this very interesting. Well, would you? I'm literally talking to no one. Okay, so let's just go back to charcoal ink. Now, one question I have is why do we not have ink for this? That's a little strange. That's actually very strange. Here's the lines layer. Let's isolate it. Hit the tilde key. Why do we see no ink for that shot? Apparently, I either just missed it or something. Okay, so let's go to the sketch layer. And normally I keep the sketch layer kind of muted. Let's go to the lines layer. And friends, we have some inking to do. Yes, we do. Okay. Okay, I'm not going to put in his lip sync. That would be counterproductive. Okay, stop I noticed something yesterday. Let's go stroke, advanced. Okay, under stroke, it's kind of interesting. If I hit control, is it control or shift? I'm having a brain fart now. It's shift. I'm sorry, shift. If I hit control while I'm drawing, it invokes the stabilizer. Okay, so I noticed yesterday I didn't like the stabilizer settings. I want to smooth, but I don't want that much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this. You have to turn on stabilize stroke, which means it's stabilizing all the time. I'm going to go to 50%. Honestly, actually, I'm going to look at going to 100%, but make the length here really short. Okay? So now we can turn that back off because we only want it when we want it. And so let's just see how this feels. So I'm drawing, and then I hit shift. Okay. 100% is absolutely, even if it's a very short. So what it appears is the case is that the factor actually, in terms of your experience as the artist that's using the tool, it's the factor that makes a lot more of the difference than the length. In terms of what it does, well, it looks like 10. It looks like this is the minimum. Okay, cool. That's fine. I can live with that. Okay, so now I'm going to draw, and then I hit shift. Oh yeah, that's nice. That smooths it out, but it doesn't make it like stupidly. It doesn't like overdo it too much. So cool. This guy, I'm about to make another mistake. He doesn't have the he doesn't have the straps up here. That's Melchizedek, and Tobias is the one who has the straps. Tobias has a bar right here, little decoration he wears. The Tavern Keeper just has wristbands. So, just saying. And I also need to crank up his, I guess you'd say, buff factor. But yes, with those settings right there, the stabilizer is kind of quite a bit more pleasant to use, I must say. So I don't need much stabilizing. I just need however much I need. Okay, so that's problematic, but I can fix that with sculpting. Boom. Okay, so E key. Just fix that a bit. Okay, except that it hung on to its awareness of the mouse after I let go, which is obviously precisely what you don't want to have happen. I know it's kind of amazing, that we are in the year 2025, right? And the whole computer thing happened. And I mean, for me, yes, I did work in a computer lab in college. It was kind of a cush little job where I'm like the lab monitor kind of thing. And even then, the whole software computers thing did kind of grip me, I must say. But I didn't really get into it until 92 or 93. I had a buddy who was like, "Dude, you gotta do a computer." I'm like, "I don't need a computer. Computers, computers are for lesser men. I don't need a computer." Well, I finally gave in and actually worked out a trade deal with one of my clients who had a business called American Computer Service. So you can guess that maybe there's computers involved. And so I did a barter deal and got my first computer. It never ceases to amaze me that the performance and interface issues that we kind of wrangle with today haven't changed a bit in 30 years. Have not changed a bit in 30 years. Okay, maybe not. Maybe that's too strong of a statement. Interface remains a real challenge. Like, doing interface well is not easy. Mainly because you're trying to predict what the person's going to either do or want to do in the software, right? And we are kind of notoriously bad at those sorts of prediction. Okay, what do we got here? Golly, you know something? I am really liking this more muted stabilization. Okay, so this is going to be the color of the lighter color. This is actually the armband. Cool. All right. And he's saying, you did wash your hand, didn't you? Oh, you don't want to use the stabilizer for little tiny lines like that. Okay, we don't need to draw Tobias in the background. This right here can be stolen from well, frankly, this shot. We don't need it. So, kind of crazy. People apparently don't like to watch this kind of content in the afternoon. Had a good group going. Now everyone's gone. No one cares. No one loves me. Okay, feels like maybe some sculpting would be in order here. Stop everything. Why is it not grabbing? Why is it not grabbing? Okay. Stop. 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 Think. This is weird. I'm dragging the sculpting tool around. I'm on the lines layer. If I turn it off, the lines layer is gone, so I'm definitely on the correct layer. Oh, I'm using the smooth tool. Duh. I was using smooth instead of whatever, sculpt. What do they call it? Grab. Well, that was careless on your part there, Mr. Dave, wasn't it? It was a bit careless. I cannot deny. Okay, so what's going to happen here? Let's get this guy colored in because we're going to want to do a little animation other than the lip sync. I think he kind of needs to lean into Mel and pull him closer to himself kind of thing. So what I'm going to do is turn off the sketch. Just for completeness, make sure the shadows are turned off as well. Let's get these guys colored. Let me think about this for half a second, though. Wait. If we don't color them, then other than this little line right here, there's nothing connecting these two guys. Once I color them, there's going to be this color of his arm that's going to connect the two. Is that okay if I'm going to be doing sculpting? I think so. I think so. Yes. Let's go ahead and get them colored in. Okay. So, to do so, we're going to go to the fills layer and just find our character in the list. Here's the Tavern Keeper. Alright. D key, in fill mode. Cool. That was easy. That was easy. Oh my gosh, I'm a little freaked out by how easy this is. Okay, his shirt is that. Wow, I'm really blown away by how. Well, it's one of those things. Ever since I've switched back to using the materials instead of the vertex paint, everything seems to be a little bit smoother, which doesn't really make any sense, but there it is. There it is, friends. Okay, so shirt trim, that would be the shirt trim, but the main color of the shirt would be that. And then his bands, he's got that. By the way, throughout the entire length of the show, it's never been clearly explained how the hell Melchizedek can have a headband on that doesn't wrap around the back of his head. That's going to be the one exception to, I guess, storytelling logic that we're just going to ignore. That's been an issue since day one. That fills that in. Okay, if we're going to go down this road, might as well do the shadows. Which means shadow material. Come on. Come on. There it is. Okay, and we want to be in draw mode. Okay, now let me think about this for just a moment. Everybody's standing around and they do have a rim light hitting their left. This is a definite dyslexia moment, and by the way, as I'm doing this, I'm noticing that I forgot to put the rim light on Vespar. And I mean, we kind of did the gradient thing here earlier, but no. Stop everything. We're going to go back one step. Duplicate this layer. Okay. Which, of course, Krita will not pin to the timeline for the simple reason that pinning it to the timeline by default would be a good thing, and we can't have that. So, okay. So now this bit is going to be amended with a transform mask. We hit the A key and we just move this over kind of like that, right? We alpha lock it to the underlying layer, which means we only see it where Vespar is, and then we start tweaking it out to make it sort of kind of look good, which shows us that this tint layer is actually causing us, get rid of it. We don't even need it in there. If we're going to do the rim light thing, we don't need a tint layer to darken this scene. Okay, so there, I mean, this is probably a little bit tight, and this is probably a little bit extreme. So how about that? Control R, boom. We don't even need to look at it. We know that it's going to look fine in the show, so let's just keep moving forward. All right, save that. Back to Blender. Hello. Back to Blender. Okay, what are we doing? Shadows. Okay, shadows. Let's do it. Okay, which of course I dovetailed here, side road, however you want to call it. The whole reason I went to Vegas in the first place was to say, okay, these guys have a rim light on their left. For me, this is a dyslexia moment, because their left, if you took these guys and you turned them around, then it would be stage left, where the rim light's coming from, right? Stage left. So that means that the light source is actually coming down here. And so for this shot, we're not going to need the rim lights. I mean, we're not going to need the rim lights. What we're going to need is the opposite. We're just going to need a shadow, a secondary shadow that covers this edge right here and here. We'll deal with that in Krita. So that means we can go ahead and put in these shadows. That's the first step. Then we're going to come back, add whatever shadows are, or not shadows, I'm sorry, whatever animation is required to sort of complete the shot, and then we will be probably ready to render and bring it over to Krita. Okay. Keep it loose. Keep it fun. Why? Because we're freaking making cartoons here, people. It's supposed to be fun. If it's not fun, why do it? Oopsie. That was my mistake. I can do this, but then I have to complete it there. This should probably be something like that. You know, no big deal. This should be probably kind of sort of something like that. I'm not going to worry about that little bit at the moment. Oh, why not? Let's just put in a couple wrinkles just to make it make the boss think we actually are doing something with our time. Okay? Alright. So now, to make the whole scene play, we know what's got to happen. Okay, so this is going to be an interesting adventure. What I'm going to do is move forward a couple frames, because what I'm going to do now is so disruptive potentially that I want to make sure I'm not causing myself undue problems. Okay, what would that look like? Here's what it would look like, I think. First of all, okay, stop everything. Stop. Get rid of that keyframe. Okay. Turn on all the frames, because we're sculpting everything at once here. Okay, I think what needs to happen is his arm has to come down, and he's going to sneak a little closer and pull Mel a little closer. So I'm just trusting that if I do it this way, it's going to kind of sort of feel right. Okay, other than the distortion of Mel's hair that caught my attention, basically if it catches my attention, I know something's wrong. Okay, so now that I've got the basic idea of it happening, I can go in and kind of tweak the details to make it, to sell it better. Okay, so I want to make a modification here. The smart way to do it, assuming I'm a smart person, is going to be to go into edit mode, select this stuff, go back into sculpt mode, but turn this on so that it can only affect the stuff that I want to affect. Edit mode, I can do the same thing with Melchizedek. Okay, really? This is the part where Dave starts to spray expletives. Look at that. Look how fucked up it is. And the reason is because of the basically the driver. This stupid tablet driver doesn't let go of the yeah, that, you know. Hey everybody, want to see somebody live on YouTube get genuinely pissed off, like in a major way, really quick? Here's how. Have the software be like as stupid as possible. And it's not Blender either, by the way. It's I think the video driver, or the, you know, the graphics driver. It's like it grabs the. There's weird things that go on with the XP Pen drivers, I must say. I own 2 XP Pen tablets. I don't think I would buy another one. I've heard they're not Linux friendly, and my experience with them is exactly that. The Linux drivers are absolutely atrocious. Like they left out the most important thing, you know, because why would you want to give any attention to the most important thing? Which is what? Calibrating. So what happens in Linux, if you use this XP Pen driver on Linux, what happens is wherever my stylus is 3 or 4 or 5 pixels over top of what I want to work with. So it's offset. Like, if anything, you would want it to be offset in the opposite direction. So that if my stylus is close to the screen, I can still see the freaking dot, right? I can still see it. I don't actually need to be touching the screen. And if I do touch the screen like I did right there, I can still see the dot, because it's offset 2 or 3 pixels northwest of where the stylus touches. On Linux, you have no ability to calibrate like at all. Now, maybe it's possible if you go in and you grok out all the meaning of every entry in the configuration files, and then you try something and see if it does something, and if it does, then you tweak to taste, and on it goes. But there's nothing in the driver that makes that as simple and obviously useful as it obviously is. Because what it means is, no matter what on Linux, whatever I'm drawing or working with is always hidden under the stylus itself. If you're left-handed, it's probably okay, with the caveat that the dot is kind of below the point of the stylus instead of above it, which is just, you know, it's just a preference thing, I guess. But the bottom line is, it'd be good if you could see it. That would be good. And what they did was they said, oh, sheesh me, who cares? Nobody in the real world will ever use our product on Linux anyway, so why should we care? And they basically did absolutely nothing in terms of actual effort to produce a driver that wasn't a complete piece of garbage. And that's rather disappointing, friends. It's disappointing because it means I can't use it on Linux. And the truth is, this is the crazy reason I bring this up. Truth is the following. I guess I didn't need to do the sketch layer, did I? The truth is, if the stupid XP Pen driver for the tablet worked on Linux, like just a modicum of reasonably good performance, like doing kind of sort of what it's supposed to, I would get rid of Windows completely. Like everything in my life, I would get rid of Windows on every machine. I would be running Linux everywhere if it wasn't for this stupid driver. I've heard that Huion, so if anybody out there, by the way, is commenting, if any of you guys use Huions, let me know what your experience is. What I've read is that their Linux drivers are really good. And so if you're going to do the Linux thing, you want Huion. Okay, so I need to go into draw mode, and we're going to do an interpolation here, here, and I suppose here, and I think this is probably going to be okay. Yep, that's perfect. So then you did wash your hands, right? Perfect, that's great. So yeah, it's a little disappointing because I've come to be quite enamored of Linux. I really like Linux. I like using the command line. I like being able to configure my system however I want to. And it's a bummer. Major bummer. Well, that I can't use the stylus on Linux. Now, you can make an argument that if you really, really want to do the Linux thing, why don't you just use a standard cheapo tablet? And you're correct. I have one, and it works fine under Linux. And it is an XP Pen as well, actually. So okay, so he says, you did wash your hands. Yeah, right. So we need a lot more keys, friends. We need a lot more keys. Let's make this big, 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 big. We'll put in one small, and then we'll give a little pause, and then he says right. And then we probably just want to have a did wash your hands, right? Perfect. Cool beans. Let's keep rocking. We want to go to the RAM drive. Delete these. Get them out of there. Get them out of there. Gone forever. Control D. Or Control D. What am I even talking about? It's Control F12. Remember what I said earlier about moving slowly? It would be that would be well advised. Okay. So what are we going to do here? This is going to be kind of tricky. Here's what we got to do. Let's get out of here. Okay, we'll save that. And I'm hoping what's left is... Nope, wrong one. Okay, so what we need is this. So here's what we're going to do. This is going to be interesting. First of all, let's look at the background. Hit the A key just to see. Okay, the background is definitely... well, to be honest, we can probably get away with this. Okay, so this is an interesting point to bring up in the context of talking about the sort of things you might worry about if you're the animator versus what the person experiences watching your show. Okay, why do I mention this? Well, in the shot we're doing right now, we're going to be shrinking Vespar down. Therefore, by definition, this should probably be something like that, like the bricks are smaller. But if you're watching the show and you see 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shots go by between when we saw this And when we see the shot we're working on right now, trust me, you're not going to sit there and be freaking out about the fact that the bricks are too big. Okay? You're not even going to think about the fact that the bricks are too big. Hence, what we're going to do is precisely the right thing, which is to not give a rip. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the Tobias frames and I'm going to remove frame and pull. Okay, so now this is what we have. Okay, the blinks layer, delete. The shadow layer, we'll leave that in there. Actually, for this shot, let's bake it in. Control E. Let's just bake it down. Okay, all of these keyframes, not needed. Poof. And then what is this copy here? This is the cast shadow on the wall. Okay. Yet again, I must say, I don't know. The question I'm coming up with now is it possible we're going to take this shot and reuse it? I would have to look at the storyboard to know. So I'm going to assume at the moment that probably we would. This layer, as you can see, already has a transform mask. So that makes our life a little easier, because what we're going to do is get rid of this silhouette of Melchizedek. Poof. Take this transform mask, hit the A key, and by the way, stop everything. What is all this garbage? Ah, this is all animation. Doesn't need to be in there. We go back to frame 1, go to the transform mask, and what we're going to do is shrink him down and move him west. Okay, so now let's save this shot, and then we'll get the other guys in here and see if the shot is working or not. So that means folder 03-93-M. So letter E is being repurposed as shot M. Okay, so that moved the shadow and everything. I do feel like Tobias is probably a little smaller in the shot than he strictly should be. I'm thinking something like that is probably what we're after, and notably and invariably this is going to have to change. So let's just deal with it right now. Let's turn the transform mask off, otherwise we won't be able to paint into the right place. Let's turn this off. Let's sample that color, because Tobias is going to be looking at this pair of guys. So we're going to sample that line color. And now we'll just zoom out and see if we can kind of make that look right. Okay, and also, as long as we're here, that's clearly wrong as well. And since I had to color over, I need to resample the line color, and now we can turn this back on. And what we want to do is bring in our animation frames. So import animation frames from the RAM disk. I think after this shot I'm going to go ahead and break again, do lunch, and probably won't be back yet today. Okay, so that answers that question. This is actually wrong. I want him to be, I'm just moving it until it feels right. Something like that feels right to me. Okay, this, we basically put these guys in their own group, and if we're gonna do the rim light thing, how are we gonna do that? Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna mask this to those guys, grab the old Conan brush, and we're just gonna go like this. Okay, so we're doing the opposite of a rim light. It's essentially a rim shadow. And it's going to be fairly large because we're going to blur it a bit, and hopefully it's going to work through the whole shot. I'm not so sure. Tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and modify this so that it suits the ending pose instead of the beginning pose, because the beginning pose is only on the screen for like literally a couple frames. So what we're going to do, something like that. Okay, now let's blur this. Gaussian blur. Boom. Is it blurred enough? Well, let's just keep hitting Control F until we like the way it looks. Okay, so now we'll take this and make like that. And frankly, I must say, since I've been doing it throughout this whole sequence, I feel like I should at least try putting in the old overall gradient in overlay mode kind of thing and see how it feels. Ploof. Okay, if we're going to do it, we want to alpha lock it. Hello? That right there seems to sit it in the mix best. That would be my opinion. So I'm going to go. Yep, that works. Okay. I'm going to do this just to see. Just to see. And in fact, I'm going to actually move this up above. I'm going to put this over the whole thing. That does feel better. I just feel like we're getting too much, oh, you know, the overall lighting scheme is sort of evolving here, and that's probably not a good thing. So this is shot M. Yes, this is shot M. I'm going to put this on the other screen so I can see what the heck I'm doing. Delete M. And let's render it. Pop it in the show and see what happens. See how she looks. Let's go here. Poof. 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 And finally, poof. Sequence. 8 frames per second. There it is. Bring it down here. Turn off the resampling. Okay. Let's see how things are feeling. Okay, we've got a little bit of an edit glitch there, right? Poof. Okay, so this should be quick. So yeah, that lasts way too long. Way too long. Try that. It's still too long, in my opinion. I think that really needs to be tighter. Tighter, friends, tighter. Before today, he says. You did wash your hands, didn't you? There you go. That's it. I'm done. 2:33. How much did we get done today? Well, technically, we need to get the ending of this. You know, I've got an idea. I got to try it. Let me jump over to Krita. I have an idea. Well, we can't do the idea because, well, maybe we can. Yeah. Okay. What is the idea? The idea is that after he says his line of dialogue, starting here. Okay, Krita, of course, doesn't fill the animation cache, so, you know, being able to see what's in your scene is obviously the most important thing, so of course that's the thing Krita doesn't do. Okay, right there is where his dialogue sort of ends, so I'm going to cut these frames out because they're just duplicates. And what I'm wondering is, what if I take this? Yeah, I guess it's just that one frame. What if he says his line of dialogue and then pushes back away again? You did wash your hands, didn't you? Well, I say if you're going to do it, you want to do it pretty immediately. That means remove frame and pull. You did wash your hands, didn't you? Okay. So it's just an interesting study. Again, of course, it takes a minute for Krita to wake up and actually fill the animation cache. So, point being that when I'm scrubbing, what Krita shows me on the screen is pretty much guaranteed at least half the time to not be what's actually in the scene. If you find that baffling and insane and crazy and ridiculous, yes, it's insane and crazy and ridiculous, but there it is. Okay, what about this? Okay, I see a little bit of a problem. A little bit of a problem here. Obviously, it's a problem that you really don't notice. But strictly speaking, see, this is what's bugging me. We've got 1, 2, and I actually am going to blame this on exactly what I was talking about. It's because what I actually did what I was trying to do incorrectly, specifically because Krita was not showing me what was really in my scene. I thought I had a 1-frame tween, and it's actually like a 4-frame tween. See right there, it's doing it again. Oh, maybe I just needed to grab it later. Okay, let's go with this. We're going to assume that's what we want. I'm just going to copy over this. And now what I'm going to do is mirror the frames and move this back. I'll give it a 1-frame breather. So maybe it's my fault because I didn't wait long enough. Maybe there's... That's perfect. Yeah, the animation software that doesn't do scrubbing. Okay, so let's go back here and go to the shadow layer, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do some sculpting here. I'm going to liquefy this. I'm trying to fix that right there. That's basically the problem. So we'll just keep going forward 1 frame at a time and massage this into place. Okay, and then here animation software that doesn't do scrubbing. OMG. Okay, let's render this. Hope Tom's not watching. Nothing going on in the chat. Nothing going on in the chat. Let's see how the show's looking. Okay, so he says, hey, he's been cleaning toilets before today. But he washed his hands. You did wash your hands, didn't you, kid? Okay, so I'm going to add the word kid to that line. I like that. You did wash your hands. Right, kid. Save our work on the script. Of course, you guys can't see that. Okay, so this feels pretty good now. Definitely feels better. I like that. So what do? We got this. That. What did we do? 16 seconds. Not amazing, but not bad. All right, let's kill that. Not sure what screen I'm on right now. It looks like I'm on the Krita screen. And jump over here. Okay, that can be saved. And I'd say we're done. We're done, friends, for today. What time is it? 2:39. I mean, technically, I could keep going, but I'm kind of sick of it. I've put in quite a good day of animation today. So, anyway, that's it. I'm out of here. I'm going. Got other things to do. Everybody have a good day. Thanks for hanging out. Blah, blah, blah. See you later.